ready to go ahead and start recording?
Yes. Go ahead and start the meeting.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right. Good evening. I now call the Town of Estill regularly scheduled council meeting September 9th, 2020 into order. Please bow your heads and join me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening. We ask you to guide us in this meeting, to be with us.
Yes.
Be with those out there who are suffering. Be with the ill, be with the elderly, be with those who are in need. We ask that you look over us, help us to make the right decisions. Help us to make the decisions that we were elected to make. Help us to guide this town. Help me, help this council, help our administration be better for our people in this town, to do better. We say in your holy son's name, we ask. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. At this time, please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance
to the
to
flag
the flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic
for
for which it stands,
one nation,
one
under God, indivisible,
visible,
with liberty and justice
justice for all.
for all. Amen.
All right, council. Glad to see everyone. This time, item 4 is approval of the August 18th, 2020 council meeting minutes. Council, I hope you've reviewed these. At this time, I'll take a motion to approve them.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the August 18th, 2020 minutes, council meeting minutes.
Second.
There's been a motion and properly second. All in favor, I know you by raising your right hand and stating aye. Aye.
Aye.
Item 5, approve the September 9th, 2020, which is tonight's meeting, council meeting agenda. Council, what's your pleasure?
So moved.
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
All right, it's been motioned and properly second. All in favor, I know you by raising your right hand and stating aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, tonight we have a special proclamation, council. I know y'all are all familiar with National Red Ribbon Week. It's a very honorable and good thing to do to recognize. We did this last year. We have a young man in the community who's a part of the Young Marines and new to the community as of about a year and a half ago, and very adamant about several things. And I commend him on his work, and he's got some guides and some backing from mentors and some others. But he has brought this before us and would like us to accept and approve this special proclamation. Same thing we did last year. I take it that everyone's had an opportunity to read through this. It's a good thing to do, to accept. There are many towns and counties around the nation that are doing it. And Ms. Miller, do you have anything to add?
The correct protocol would be for you to read the proclamation, please, sir, in its entirety.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. So let me flip to it. Apologize, I forgot. It's a little bit different now that we're on Zoom. Proclamation of National Red Ribbon Week. Whereas communities across America have been plagued by the numerous problems associated with illicit drug use and those that traffic in them. And whereas there is hope in winning the war on drugs, and that hope lies in education and drug demand reduction, coupled with the hard work and determination of organizations such as the Young Marines of the Marine Corps League to foster a healthy drug-free lifestyle. And whereas governments and community leaders know that citizen support is one of the most effective tools in the effort to reduce the use of illicit drugs in our communities. And whereas the red ribbon has been chosen as a symbol commemorating the work of Eric Kiki Marina, a drug enforcement administration agent who was murdered in the line of duty and represents the belief that one person can make a difference. And whereas the Red Ribbon Campaign was established by Congress in 1989 to encourage a drug-free lifestyle and involvement in drug prevention and reduction efforts. And whereas October 23rd through October 31st, 2020 has been designated National Red Ribbon Week, which encourages Americans to wear a red ribbon to show their support for a drug-free environment. Now, therefore, I, Carn F. Bowers III, Mayor, do hereby proclaim October 23rd through October 31st, 2020, a Red Ribbon Week in the town of Estill, South Carolina, and urge all citizens to join me and our council in this special observance.
Thank you, Mayor.
Council, there's no objection to this.
Mr. Mayor, if I'm in order, I'd like to make a motion that we accept this special proclamation recognizing National Red Ribbon Week, October 23rd to 31st, 2020.
Second that.
It's been motion and properly second. All in favor, I need by raising your right hand and stating aye. Aye. Moving on. That was new business. That was underneath before old business. Moving on to item 7, approval of ordinance 14-2020 to amend the town's business license ordinance to provide for regulation of temporary businesses. Second and final reading. Council, we've gone through this. We know what we're dealing with. Are there any objections at this time? Are there any questions? Otherwise, I will accept a motion to move forward with the second and final reading of ordinance 14-2020.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, just for the record,
Yes, sir.
in going through the municipal association's business license handbook, I just want the public to know that this ordinance meets the model business license that the municipal association recommends, that you can find it through pages 69 and 82 of the handbook, and pages 35 through 36 describing what businesses we are addressing. So I just want the public to know that we're in accordance with the municipal association, and that's where they can find it if they want to look it up.
Thank you, Councilman Hammond. I appreciate you adding that for the public's knowledge. This is something that has been worked on and will continue to be worked on through time, as long as businesses exist in a state. So anyway, Council, we're ready to move forward on this. Do we have a motion, or is there anything else up for discussion?
I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance 14-2020 to amend the town's business license ordinance.
Second.
It's been motioned and properly seconded. All in favor, I know you by raising your right hand and stating aye. Aye. Moving on to new business, item 8, department reports. Police department, council, we read these and try to stay up to date with everything our reports have. We have our administration report that we can have summarized by our administrator. Are there any questions in any of these departments? Are there any comments on any of these?
Mr. Mayor,
We can go. I'll start first with go ahead, Ms. Savino.
it's really for Miss Miller. I know we had reached out to the county trying to help the chief regarding some issues with hospital visits for arrestees and whatnot. Have they been partners, I guess, I don't want to say cooperating, but have they gotten back with you and kind of continued the conversation on how to solve it or how to work through it?
I sent an email to the county administrator, I believe a week and a half ago, to touch base with her on that, and I have not received anything back from her.
Okay. So that's kind of still floating out there.
Ms. Miller, if you don't mind, when you do have something, just make sure that you CC all of us on that so we will be aware of.
Absolutely, I will. I will.
Ms. Savino?
I think that's about it. That was it.
All right. Mr. Hadwin?
I have nothing, sir.
Mayor Pro Tem Solomon?
No questions, Mayor.
All right, well, moving on to safety and recreation. Moving on to fire department report. Is there anything there that anyone, Mr. Hadwin, do you have anything coming from that side that you are highly involved with that you would like to add?
The only thing I would like to make council aware of is I spoke with the representative, and just so the public knows, as the training officer for the fire department that I'm a member of, that's listed here, that when we ordered the gear, there were some things that the manufacturer did not ship, and those items should be here next week. They're going to personally deliver those items to us at the beginning of next week. So I just wanted to give council an update on that so that everyone is aware that we're getting the items that we paid for. It was just an oversight by the manufacturer.
Ms. Savino?
No, sir. That's it.
Mayor Pro Tem Solomon?
No questions, Mayor.
I'd like to thank you, Mr. Hadwin, for that and keeping up with that. We need somebody, to be able to. I know that's something that's very, very close to your heart. You've been involved in it. We appreciate that update.
Welcome, Mayor.
Moving on to Public Works. Any questions? Anything that needs to be addressed?
I've seen the guys working off and on fixing water leaks, and it seems like sometimes when they fix them, they spring right back up again, and sometimes they don't. So I know they're doing the best they can with it. But that's it.
I have to commend Public Works for their the water department. They've done a fine job of they've come in early to avoid the heat that we had the last 2 weeks, and are still getting their job done. And if anybody thinks that they're not out there, maybe that you get out there with them, because I'm gonna tell you, they've been working some extreme temperatures, and they're still getting their job done, and I have a great appreciation for them, as well as every other department. But they face the elements a lot harder than most of the others. Mr. Hadwin, do you have anything to add?
No, sir.
Mayor Pro Tem Solomon.
Yes, I can also contest that I've been seeing them as of today working street down from the bank, working on some water lines, and they're doing a great job trying to fix those leaks. So I appreciate that.
All right, thank you, ma'am. So we basically covered public works and water and wastewater. Is there anything else needed on any of those departments that you would add, Administrator Miller, before we move on to your report? Ms. Miller, can you hear me?
I'm sorry, I apologize. No, I
So
don't have
was
anything
asking if
else
there's
to
anything.
add. But I would like to mention
Okay.
that, I'm sorry, Mayor.
No, go ahead. I was just saying, I know that everyone has read your report. I'd like you to highlight whatever you feel is necessary, and then we'll take questions if there are any before we move on.
Well, I think that the biggest thing that concerns the entire town is the Verizon tower issue. And the town, have worked very hard to get all the paperwork done. As a matter of fact, we did it in a matter of approximately 9 days to process from one end to the other. I worked very hard with the building department in Hampton County. And I thank Randy and Cruz and Renee for working with us as well. And the permit was actually issued September 2nd to build the new tower. So it's coming, but there's still some delays, and those are on Alltel. But as far as the permitting and everything else, it's done.
Okay.
Yes. All right. Thank you, ma'am. We, as we discussed last week in our special call meeting, there have been delays, but they haven't been on our part. We've worked in lightning speed fashion, and I commend you and working with the county getting this. Everyone is suffering. Of course, this is not something that we are in control of. We're just
No.
gonna, but we can push as hard as we can.
And we have been.
And you and I have been in touch about this over the past 24 hours, and the contingencies that they have. And we're going to see something one way or the other. Our citizens deserve better, and we're not going to let this slide. And we have taken all of the proper avenues and followed all the proper protocol to make sure that things are moving along the way they should. We've done our part on our end. Now it's up to the company to do their part. Are there any questions for Ms. Miller, Mr. Savina?
I would just commend Ms. Miller on her report. I mean, there's 23 items on here, and it's tough to say one is less important than the other. I mean, there's 23 loaves of bread in the oven, and they're all important. So I would just commend her for her hard work. I mean, there's just since our last meeting, 10 permits for zoning and 2 developments for site plans. So just as proof that, getting a fee structure in there for reviewing these items and whatnot, more come in the door than I'm sure I'm aware of. Ms. Miller could probably attest to that, but just getting a fee structure in place so we can actually collect a little bit of revenue on this, because it does take staff's time and it costs the town money to do it. So I just commend her on all her hard work. I know none of this is easy, and it's kind of drinking from a fire hose for the first 6 months. But anyway, just thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Savina. Mr. Havlin?
Just to piggyback off of what Councilman Savino says, there's a lot that's been done since our last meeting, and it takes a lot of time for her to do what she's doing. Of course, I think she would agree with me when I make this next comment that she has a good staff on hand that's really getting in there with her and helping her make the town a better place. The only other thing I would comment on, and it's more or less kind of like dropping a bug in Miss Miller's ear. I'm pretty sure she gets a lot of that. But with this new business coming into the industrial park in Early Branch, I know you've got a lot on your plate, but whatever we can do to get our town in a position to get some development for housing, to accommodate some of these employees that's going to need a place to stay. You may have already made some contacts in regards to some development of that nature, but I think the more we can do now to better prepare ourselves, I think that's something we probably should look into.
Good.
Mr. Hammond, to add to your comment about the new development coming in, there is going to be some time before the groundbreaking occurs. I was at the announcement, and I've been talking with Southern Carolina Alliance. This has been a long process. Having an ag background, I've had some questions come my way, and I hope that everything works out with it. I hope that it will provide us some jobs and we can keep some citizens from leaving our county to achieve income somewhere else. And Ms. Miller, I've got a few things that I'm going to give you. It's probably going to be this coming week, maybe next week, but I'll have a few more items and have you in proper contact with some people to make sure that if anything, as soon as it arises, when it is needed, we are on point, and that our citizens are in the know when it's ready, as soon as it's ready, so that we can give them the opportunities that everyone else, because I would love to keep all of the employees the employment opportunities that will be there in our county. And of course, I'm not the judge on that, but I want to make sure that they have that opportunity. And it'll probably be closer towards the end of this month on finalization of some of that. But anyway,
And
Mayor
I
Pro
would
Tem
definitely
Solomon, do you have
appreciate
anything to
that.
add?
Well, I would definitely appreciate that because it is a huge deal for this area. And I don't have the contacts because this was kept secret. I knew something was coming, but the county administrator, of course, had to keep it secret until they announced it. So now that it's finally been announced, I'm hoping to be able to get some contacts, with the organizations that are coming, and at the same time, workforce and that kind of thing to try to get the word out to our people. But yeah, I would appreciate any help I can get.
Everyone was sworn to secrecy on this because of the
Yeah, I know.
magnitude and scale
They have to.
of this program.
They have to.
But and they still are all these major companies and the involvement. They've got proper protocol, and they will be assigning those when the time comes. And I'm in contact with them, and we will work to. I will have everything to you, and I know our county administrator will do the same. I'll make sure. Mayor Pro Tem, do you have anything you want to add?
Yes, I would just like to add on to what Council Haddon was saying about the low income homes. It would be a good thing if we can look forward in developing Thomas Point down there. I think that would be a good location to develop. And my next question goes to Ms. Miller. Could you elaborate a little bit on number 13 for me? The CDBG grant?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Is there a specific question or before the demolition happens? I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Before-
I think you're going to answer my question.
Yeah, before any demolition happens, there has to be an asbestos testing done. And that took place, I believe it was 3 weeks ago. And I got the report, and the report is that all of the homes that have to be taken down need asbestos remediation, which means the demolition will cost more than a demolition that didn't need them. Some more than others, but that needs to take place before any building can come down. So that's the next step, is to go ahead and remediate that asbestos, and then buildings can come down.
Okay,
Does,
okay.
does LoCog procure that, the asbestos remediation?
Yes, they were given the go ahead by Mr. McCroskey to go ahead and do all of the procurement for us. And they've been doing that for us. Mhm.
Any other questions?
No questions, Mayor.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Miller. We appreciate your hard work, your dedication. You do definitely have against the tide swim. And you, I mean, like, to add to what Mr. Councilwoman Sabino said, 23 items here. And I know that you're working hard on them. I know you are. I talked with you about it, and it's amazing. And you are doing great work for the people of this town. You're moving us forward, and you're making contacts and connections, and like to echo what Councilman Hammond said, you're only as good as your team. You can't do it alone, and you've got a good team working with you. And we thank all those that are standing beside you and working with you. And we appreciate your hard work and dedication, as well as all of the other department heads. We appreciate their hard work and dedication as well. All right, moving on. Item B, August 2020 income statement. As always, council, I hope that everyone has reviewed this. If there are any questions, we can discuss them. Or you can bring them up to me or Ms. O'Banner or Ms. Miller, and we can address this with them in depth, or we can try to have Maya answer those via email, and if we need to have a meeting to get into the thick of it, we can. But I always suggest that we take this our income statements as information only. If there are no questions at this time, I will entertain a motion to accept the August 2020 income statements information only.
I'll make a motion that we accept the August 2020 income statements for information only.
Second.
A motion and properly second. All in favor, I know you by raising your right hand and stating aye. Aye.
Aye.
Moving on. Item C, approval of ordinance 13-2020 to provide for towing and impounding vehicles. Council, this is something that was brought to my attention over a year ago, and as a way for us to look at things a little bit differently. And I know Ms. Miller has done. There's some differences in it, but has everyone had the opportunity to review everything they need on this ordinance? Or would you like Ms. Miller to explain anything added to this ordinance?
For the record, it would be nice if she explained it, Mayor.
Ms. Miller.
Right now, when the police department has to confiscate a vehicle, they tow it to our tow lot, which is at the Public Works office. It's a secure lot with lighting and a fence around it, which is what's required. When those vehicles are towed, the town pays for that tow bill. And we never get that tow bill back. So essentially, the taxpayers are paying for a vehicle that's in a tow lot. If a vehicle is abandoned on the street, the tow company comes and picks up the vehicle And if the owner wants to pick up their vehicle, they have to pay a tow bill and a storage fee. We just feel that at this point, it's not fair for the taxpayers to be paying for those tow bills for those people that have committed a crime and we have to confiscate their vehicle. And many other cities and towns across the country have done this. We implemented it in Millersville, and we put together this ordinance to go ahead and do that, so that when somebody loses their vehicle because it needs to be confiscated for evidence or for whatever reason or an investigation, it's either released once the investigation is over, or if it goes to court, the court releases it into our custody, but or to their custody. It depends on the situation. When they pick that vehicle up, we are suggesting that they pay for that tow bill instead of the
Yes.
taxpayers paying for it, and that they also pay a fee per day for us storing it there. It is an excellent way to bring in a little bit more revenue, but at the same time, cover expenditures of towing of vehicles that we have to do by law.
Chief Williams brought this up months ago, and he had experience with this in another municipality. And basically, you have a vehicle towed and you know, we can work agreements with the tow company to be our number one towers. I know there's some more detail to that, but the tow company tows it and then they store it. We're paying that, and the taxpayers are paying that. Then they're getting paid by the individual whose car has been towed. And then if they still don't, and they don't meet all their requirements, they are actually allowed to sell that vehicle after a certain amount of time. So instead of losing all of that, we're trying to gain money back for our taxpayers, for those who are not following the law. Mr. Savino.
And I apologize for not reaching out to you before this, Ms. Miller, but is there a fee schedule that goes along with this ordinance, or is that something we need to adopt later on?
The fee schedule will be adopted as soon as you pass it on second reading, which will be on your next meeting. The reason for that is Marty had suggested we do it that way. It's a lot easier to fix a fee schedule via resolution in the future than having to do an ordinance over and over and over again to fix them.
Are there any other questions, council?
Council Sabina answered my question.
This time I'll take a motion. Ma'am?
I said, Council Sabina answered my question. He asked it already.
Mr. Allen?
No, sir. I'm happy and content with making, accepting this by title and number only at this time.
All right. I will now take a motion. Title and number only.
Mr. Mayor,
First
from that,
reading.
that we approve ordinance 13-2020 to provide for towing and impounding vehicles for the first reading.
Second it.
It's been motioned and probably second. All in favor, I know you by raising your right hand and stating aye.
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 All right, moving on. Item D, discussion and direction to Mr. Whitley related to the memorial proposed. Council, if you have the opportunity to review all of this, and I'll turn this over to Ms. Miller. I've had one suggestion.
Okay.
I've got one suggestion about, I don't know when, I don't think anyone completely knows when we will be out of the pandemic crisis that we are facing. When we will be able to do some of the things we're doing, and my suggestion was to Ms. Miller is when we are able to make those adjustments, we can do some of the in-face, memorial stuff. But Ms. Miller, I'll turn it over from there.
I agree with you, Mayor. The basic thing is Mr. Whitley would like to propose a historical marker be placed somewhere downtown to honor the astronauts that came here in 1965. I believe, Mayor, you had mentioned that you remembered that, or your family they had stayed with your family or something like that, with your dad. But anyway, the speaker at that time was James Webb, who spoke about someday launching a telescope into space. And apparently next year, that is going to actually happen. So Mr. Whitley thought it would be a good idea, since there was such a huge turnout and national attention to the 1965 visit here in Estill, that would be a good idea for us to unveil that marker on the date that they actually launch that telescope. And it would be good for us to gain that national attention, but also to honor, Mr. Webb and the astronauts that were here. However, he doesn't want to embark on this and get his volunteers together to get this whole idea started and to fruition without getting an okay from the council that this would be something that the council would like to see downtown. And my suggestion and recommendation would be not only based on, COVID right now and the situation we're in, but I would suggest that once they come up with a definite plan as to what it's going to look like, because it hasn't even, they've got ideas, but nothing's been put in concrete. And where they want to place it, then they come back to the council and give a presentation and show you all what they're looking at doing. And we can make adjustments once that happens.
I've had several lengthy discussions with Mr. Whitley about this. I believe that it was a watermelon festival, but it was honored as Mendel Rivers Day, and he was representative of Mendel Rivers at that time, and he took part in having them down. My grandfather was a part of that. My father said he thought it was the most amazing thing in the world because the astronauts that walked on the moon actually changed clothes in his room. And at that point, I think he was 11 or 12 years old. Because they came into town and it was a major celebration. I'm all for it. I think it's an amazing thing. It also brings some attention to Estill. And which I'm about. I want people to love Estill the way we as council and mayor and employees of the town and the citizens of the town see it. And so, but I know that we are facing different times and different protocol for unveiling and doing things. But that was one thing I forgot to mention earlier, and Ms. Miller hit it on the head. Once they have a design, once things are in place, I would like to approve this simply for the fact that it commemorates something that's a part of Estill's history, which is a major part of this country and this world's history with the men who walked on the moon. And so, Council, are there any questions? Mr. Savino first.
It's just a few questions and comments. I think it's a great idea. I think it could. The two things that really pop in my head, the city of Greenville, they what's the word I'm looking for? Not took advantage of. Well, I guess took advantage of. They utilized they had a unique concept, and it is that they utilized the history that was unique to Greenville. So there were 2 or 5 or 7 people from Greenville that did unique things in history that were only from Greenville. And if you walk down the main street in Greenville, you see a bronze statue of these people and a little story about them. So I say that to say that there are some good ways of portraying these things. And I think that we should probably give these folks some suggestions on what are some good ways to do it. That way they don't go down a path and wind up with something that we don't like, because if it's going to be in the downtown, it's going to be there longer than we're in office. And then the second thing is we should all probably reach out to, I don't know what their budget is for this, but we should reach out to our elected officials, because they've got money for this kind of stuff, and bronze statues and signs and whatnot. I just did 2 historical signs. They cost $20,000. They're not cheap. So I think people above us, we should reach out to them to see if they're willing to help out on something like this. Helps the state just as much as it helps us. That's it.
And one of the comments you made, one of the things we have in the town is a historical marker for, well, we've got several historical markers, but we have a historical marker commemorating Ludi Gobbo, who was in the Olympics. It's right there next to the American and African American War Memorial across from CarQuest, L&L. And like you say, those things, they don't need to be forgotten. And this is another thing that, it was a good thing. Some statues and history monuments can be questioned, but this is a positive thing. Anyway, are there any other questions, Mr. Hadwin?
I think this is a good thing that we need to do. It will help with recognizing the town, and of course the major accomplishments of that time and how much technology and science has changed. The one thing that I would probably suggest to Mr. Whitley and his organization, it might not hurt to reach out to our local schools and see what the children would come up with. Make this an educational moment as well, to let them learn a little bit about our history and a little bit about science at the same time. And they may be able to incorporate some of those ideas into their plans, not knowing what those plans are right now.
That's a great idea, Mr. Hadwin. And I'll let you put that in your thinking cap, Administrator Miller, and reach back out. And I'm sure that Mr. Whitley he loves talking about this.
Oh, yes, he does.
Very enthusiastic individual when it comes to this type of stuff. And I think that anything that will shed light, he will be happy to bring more and more to. So, Mayor Pro Tem Solomons, do you have anything to add? Any questions or comments?
No comment, Mayor.
All right. Well, I think we have the direction that you'll need, Ms. Miller. And
Yes, sir.
Like
I
you
don't
stated,
need a motion.
move forward with it, and we'll go from there.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Moving on, item E, bid award for the Bull Durham painting to JL Lane Painting LLC. Council, we beat around the bush enough on this, and we haven't beat around the bush. We've been waiting. And we've had to go back and forth with bids and making sure everyone was insured and licensed and bonded. And so we're finally back at this, and it is something that we need to go ahead and move forward on. Is there any discussion on this? Mr. Savino?
Just real quick, I mean, he's got most all of his paperwork in here. I'll just make sure he's got town business license isn't in the packet. Just double check his general liability insurance, that kind of stuff. I see his insurance certificate, but just check the general liability component of it. But other than that, I don't have anything else.
Councilman Hadwin?
I have none, Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem Solomons?
So his bid is $8,000.
Yes, ma'am. The original bid that came in when we first bid it out was a lot lower than that. Originally, the bid that came in was for a little over, well, it was $6,500 round figures.
Yes, that's all.
But,
Right.
but he was not going to do as much patchwork, and it was only one coat of paint. The second bid that came in was a little over $12,000. And my question to him was, why is it so different? And his answer to me was because he added more prep work and he also added a second coat of paint. So I negotiated him down to the $8,000. And that's basically what we had budgeted. And he agreed to do it because he's looking to do more work for the town. But he was the only one that answered the second time around.
And he was the only person who actually had everything in line for his liability.
He does.
And,
Yeah,
and,
nobody else
you
did.
know,
Nobody
we
else
can-
had the
That's the
insurance.
entire building? That's the entire building?
It's one side of the building. That's 4,390 square feet. And those walls are pretty tall. So,
Mm.
What, Ms. Miller, I'll just ask a quick question. I know we're probably gonna have a special call meeting next week for for a specific or for a different topic. Is there a possibility that some of this cost could get covered in a grant?
the painting, no. I tried.
Copy that.
I tried.
Okay.
That's considered maintenance.
Okay.
Hmm.
I'm scared that if we go too much longer with some of the stuff, we're going to be in a lot higher range. We have the budget. We have it budgeted for that, and that's what we need to have done. And put your investment in. We put the investment in to keep it up so that people are pleased with it. It is expensive, but it is what it is.
Mr. Mayor, if I may make a comment, when we look at this, if we look at the scope of the work, if we all remember that wall, if it's the area that I'm thinking about, which is the live oak section, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
A lot of that mortar
Yes.
that's on the wall is already cracking and falling off the wall as it is. And when you look at what we're talking about here, there's probably a lot of this is labor intensive. And if he's putting 2 coats on it now and he was only putting 1 before, and he's doing more repairing of these holes, I can see the justification in $1,500 more, because now to me that tells me he's going into a little bit more in depth in his repair work to ensure that his 1-year warranty is going to be in place.
Yes.
So, and the other thing that we need to keep in mind as well, we'll be supporting a local business who is also going to be paying a business license fee back into the town. I think that says something too.
Also paying taxes in this town, and also more than likely buying majority of his materials here in this town. He's keeping money in this town. You know, Bull Durham is a historic focal point in this town, in our county, in the lower part of the state. It's hard for me to find a day when I don't see someone parked on the side of the road taking pictures of it, and it piques their interest. And I don't know how much business we get out of that, but I know that people post about the boulder, and it is a gem for our town to have, and I want us to continue to have it. And if we've cut the price, if the price basically doubled, and Ms. Miller has been able to negotiate it down by 90%, 80%, even more than that. I think that we need to move forward. We've been discussing this for months. We've been discussing this actually about 2 years, but we've been going back and forth for certification and insurance and credentials and everything. And we can keep doing it, but the price probably is not going to get any better, in my opinion. We need to move forward, and because people do utilize the facility. Ms. Miller.
If I may, Councilman Hadwin, I'm glad you mentioned the condition of the wall, because that was the other thing that I noticed in the first bid that we received. His labor for that was $5,500. So the paint and materials were minimal. It was more the labor than anything else. And I believe that by him reducing what he's reduced and increasing the labor, I think he has basically cut out the extra materials in order to come down to a figure that I was comfortable with. But his labor in the first bid was huge, $5,500. And it's because of the condition of the actual walls. So I appreciate that.
Council, are we ready to move forward? Award the bid for the Bull Durham painting to JL Lane Painting LLC.
I make a motion, Mr. Mayor, that we accept the bid or award the bid for the paint of the Bull Durham to JL Ling Painting.
Second.
It's been motioned and properly second. All in favor, I know you by raising your right hand and stating aye. Aye. All right. There is no public comment to my knowledge. Is there, Ms. Miller?
No, sir, there is no public comment. However, if I may make a quick comment, I sent y'all an email yesterday with an agenda for, and backup for Tuesday, September 15th at 6 o'clock via Zoom. I am applying for a hometown economic development grant to hopefully be able to fix the wall that's crumbling in Bull Durham, because it is a historical significance building, and it is structural. It does qualify for the grant. I had originally discovered this grant and was actually going to go for changing and replacing all of our wayfinding signs in town, you know, the signs that say food, businesses ahead and that kind of thing. They're in very bad disrepair, and I really thought, you know, if we start beautifying things a little bit, it'll help out. But anyhow, I'm going to go for both, but in order to do that, I have to have a resolution done, and this grant I have to have in by the 25th of September or else we lose it. So that's why I'm calling that special meeting. So it'll be via Zoom, September 15th at 6 o'clock.
Yeah. This next Tuesday, Council. I'd like to thank Ms. Miller for going after everything that she can.
Oh,
Ms.
yeah.
Miller does. I mean, it's great. It's amazing. You know, we've been dealing with this wall in the Bull Durham, and now we have the possibility of having that repaired through this grant. So thank you, Ms. Miller. Is everyone's all right with that meeting time, correct?
Good.
I'll have to see Mayor. I think we've got something going on at school, but I'll just have to see and let you know.
Okay. Well, even if you can step aside for a minute with your phone and zoom in, you know, we'll make it happen. But
Yes, sir. I
Ms.
try
Miller,
to,
thank you, and Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I was just going to say, I set aside Wednesdays for all our meetings. That way I work around the school schedule. So
I
I'll
understand.
do the best I can. I don't want to commit to something that I can't deliver. So
I understand that, and I appreciate it. Mayor Pro Tem Sullivan, do you have anything to add?
Yeah. Nothing to add. I'll be available for the meeting on the 15th.
All right. Great. Well, council, I want to thank you all for being available and participating tonight. I want to thank our administration, Ms. Miller, and Ms. O'Banner. Thank you for everything that you do as well. And at this point, I will take if all hearts and minds are clear, I will take a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor, if I'm in order, I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
It's been motioned and properly second. All in favor, I know you by raising your right hand and stating aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. Everyone, I hope y'all have a wonderful evening and stay safe.
Same to you, sir.
Same to you. Same to you,
Thank
Mayor.
y'all. Thank you, y'all.
Good night.